Hi, everybody. Welcome to our session on Get Involved. This is a session that has been organised by the Young Statisticians section of the Royal Statistical Society. And today we've got three great speakers lined up talking to you about different ways that you can get more involved and volunteering with the Society. So we're going to dive right in. Our first speaker is Amaka and Ragbara from the RSS, who will be talking to us about the Society sections and local groups. Thank you, Amaka.
Thanks, Emily. I'm just going to share my screen here so you can see my slides. Great. Okay, so if I can go. Brilliant. So yeah, I'm here to talk about sections and local groups. And as Emily said, I am the Member Engagement Manager at the Royal Statistical Society. So basically, I look after sections and local groups, and I am their main contact within the RSS, and I provide them with governance support just to make sure that they have they understand how they should have the support within the RSS to do and deliver what they need to do. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you about getting involved in sections and local groups. And, you know, this is one of the best ways for members, RSS fellows, to use their skills to promote their work and to connect with other fellows within the society. So we have created these routes, sections, and local groups for you to be able to share your knowledge and to stay informed of the latest developments in your fields and within your geographical area as well. To start with, I'm going to talk to you about local groups. Local groups are set up within a particular area to organize a program of topical events, and they aim to basically encourage the sharing of knowledge and development with industries within that area, with statisticians in those areas, and to also communicate the value of statistics with students. So sometimes you find that we have local groups participating in national campaigns, things like Maths with Scotland, or a local festival like Edinburgh Science Festival. So things like that, they use this opportunity to not just engage with statisticians, but members of the public or people who would be interested in statistics. And so we have 18 local groups in the UK. They're scattered around England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. As well as that, we have one international group in Nigeria, and hopefully in future we will have some more. But with all our groups, they are run by a committee of volunteers. So the opportunity here is for you to actually join these local groups, become a committee member, and help run local groups, bring ideas to the table, help them organize it, and invite speakers from around the country, and yeah, get them to share and talk about their work and the many areas that fascinate you. Moving on, just to share with you that we do have a dedicated area for sections and local groups within our website. So do go have a look and see if there's a local group in your area and if you'd like to get involved with their work. I'm going to move on now to sections. There are 16 sections. These sections actually cover particular branches and applications of statistics. So they cover topics such as data science, history of statistics, research, official statistics. And once again, they're run by a committee of volunteers of up to 12 members. And their role is to basically put together events and a program of events that engage the statisticians or people working in these areas and fields. And they sometimes organize events at Errol Street, or they would organize events in a local group. But basically, their aim is just to share knowledge and share latest development. So I'm going to give you a bit of flavor and tell you about some of our local sections. We have a computational statistics and machine learning section, and they basically had a name change this year. And so they were originally called the statistical computing section, but they are now wanting to highlight machine learning within their section. So they have now had that within, they have now included that within their name. So their focus is on encouraging topics around the practice of computational statistics and machine learning. So it's worth looking at their page and seeing if this is something that interests you and you would like to get involved with. We also have a data science section that was set up in 2017, and just to encourage our data science community, to give them a forum for them to promote their work as well. So they encourage data science careers, debate around opportunities and challenges facing data scientists, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Since they were formed, they've done quite a lot, from things like running a roadshow around the industrial strength data science. So that was a roadshow that they ran in 2018, and they had various panels and meetings around the country, covering different topics, which is quite successful actually. At the same time, they published last year a guide for ethical data science with the Institute of Faculty of Actuaries. This is quite a topical area, and we're so pleased that the section was willing to take this on board for the society and work with the IFOA to deliver this piece of work. And this document is available to download on the RSS website, so it's worth looking at that document too. As I said, sections can do a lot of things, and conference is one of the areas that sections are always involved with, and data science section is one of them. They ran a session today, on data science careers, and so it's something that they're keen to do, to use that platform as well to promote data science. Moving on to the history of statistics. So it's also a place for looking at statistics in a historical context. Our history section is quite active. They do a lot of work, different activities at conference. I think this year they were going to do something around Florence Nightingale just to celebrate her bicentenary. At the same time, they've done, walks around the city of London, talking about statistical history as well. And they've held meetings on R.A. Fisher, on women in statistics. So they are quite active, and it's worth having a look and seeing if you can also get involved in what they do. So yeah, they also have a Twitter and a Facebook page. So if you want to keep stay informed on their activities, definitely worth joining their accounts. Our international development section was set up in 2017 to reach out to our members overseas. They do a lot of activities around sustainable development goals and the statistical capacity development. So they also try to encourage, statistical literacy for better development outcomes. So, they would sometimes organize events with people like the Paris 21. They try to hold events at Aero Street again, and use our local groups to promote these areas of statistics. So very active group, doing really good work and helping society, engaging our international members. The medical section is another active group who have members in academia and industry, statisticians as well. They organize 4 to 5 events a year, and have done work with YSS, with our publications network. They've organized events as well to promote Florence Nightingale, and also conducted a study last year on professional recognition of medical statisticians. Our sections, as you can see, do a lot of work and look for different areas and routes to kind of promote their areas of statistics. The official statistics section, do a lot of events as well, sometimes in collaboration with the health statistics user group. In the past few months, due to COVID, they've taken the activities online and have done a lot of online events based on COVID and talking about emerging topics in that area. They contribute to the society's work in official statistics and have been a useful forum for us in terms of policy consultation and any of our collaborations with the ONS. The quality improvement section is another niche area within the society. They have they cover statistical methods to improve organizational performance, and they actually oversee our implementation of the ISO Lean Sigma standard. So they have a subgroup within them. So if this is an area that you're interested in, so definitely go to their website and have a look at what they do there. They have an event coming up fairly soon. So, it's worth noting what they do in that area too. They have created a video on YouTube about quality improvement. So if you're not really sure what quality improvement means, just like I don't, then it's also worth looking at that video because it does tell you a lot about what quality improvement can do. They also have a LinkedIn group, so joining them to find out what they're up to. Our research section aims to develop and support statistical research. As a committee, they have lots of really good statisticians there who support the society's work on our discussion meetings. They review papers that are submitted to Series B, our journals in Series B, and organize discussion meetings. So they work quite closely with our journals department in reviewing those papers and creating some discussion meetings around them. Our social statistics section is concerned with collection and dissemination, analysis and interpretation of statistics. Their recent meetings cover things like fairer voting, social surveys, policy, and data linkage. As a section, they are involved with our Katimash lecture every year. They help deliver that in collaboration with the Social Research Association. They are quite an active section as well, so you are going to be involved with not just statisticians working in academia, but also statisticians in industry and other sectors. We have a statistics and law section that was created in 2015, and they provide lots of guides for us. They are quite involved with that area of promoting the legal and forensic science aspects of statistics. So definitely worth looking at what they do. They've done a lot of work for the society and tend to contribute to some of our policy consultations as well. The Young Statisticians section, as you can see, organized this section. So they are quite involved with the society. They engage with statisticians within the first 10 years of their career. So they do exist to deliver lots of activities to ensure that young statisticians are aware of ways to improve their professional development, ways for them to get involved in society. And so they do that through many routes. So they organize competitions, careers days, they involve the conference. They do a lot of Twitter takeovers, so they're quite active on Twitter, and they also participate in they work in collaboration with Significance magazine to run our writing competition for early career statisticians. So as you can see, sections are quite involved with deciding, not just delivering our strategic goals, but also in making sure that members are able to engage with one another and connect with each other. So it's definitely worth having a look at our pages and seeing whether there's a section in your area. So before a section is created, we normally, as a society, encourage them to be formed as a special interest group. So a special interest group is usually formed for 3 years to gauge the interest of statistics in a particular, gauge the interest of our members in a particular topic or area. So currently we have 4 special interest groups covering areas such as data ethics, women in data science and statistics, teaching statistics, and finance and economics. These groups are quite active as well. The teaching statistics, which was formed in 2019, looks to engage with our members who are interested in post-16 secondary and further education, higher education, and professional training. They have different statisticians also working in these areas who are keen to organize lots of events and activities. So far, they've jointly worked with the IMA to fund higher education workshops. They've hosted teaching and learning statistics online in Talmo, which is coming up actually, and they also have a website. So it's worth going on their website to see whether an event coming up you can attend. So they're looking to promote good practice in statistics teaching. Our Women in Data Science and Statistics was established in 2019, and they are looking to increase visibility of women in statistics and data science careers. They, as a group, they want to advocate for women, and as a society, this is an area we're keen to do a lot of work in, particularly to increase diversity. So, as a group, they are involved with our conference, running activities there. They're using other areas such as putting forward nominations for our conference, so looking for different rules, not conference, for our honors and prizes. So looking for ways to kind of, promote experiences of women and support women in the field of statistics.
1 minute left, Amika.
No problem. In my last slide. So yeah, I think the Finance and Economics Special Interest Group, lastly, was formed in 2019, and they had their launch event in February this year. And they're looking for emerging topics that they can invite speakers to talk about. So definitely send them an email if you have if you have any ideas for them. So just to say that if you feel that there's an area within statistics that's not yet covered and you would like to create a section, then do get in touch with me. If there's a geographical area as well that you'd like to create a local group, then also let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Amika. That was great. We do have a couple of questions. So Cecilia says, can you tell us a bit about what support the RSS will provide so that local groups can set up events online?
Yes, so we, as a organization, in terms of online events, you can use our platform to run those events. So we have an events team who can help you deliver it. You can use our website to promote it. So put your event online and we'll help you with the registration process and help you with the promotional and advertising aspect. And on the day, we will help you also deliver it. So if you are with a local group, then this is support that's available to you. If you're running face-to-face event, I'll just cover that as well. If you are running face-to-face events, we as an organization provide grants to local groups. So you will have the funding to deliver your events and invite speakers to your area.
Thank you. Also, is the social statistics section suitable for those assessing quality of life of individuals with learning disabilities?
I would not know that. I'm afraid I'm not quite sure, but I mean, if it's a social topic, then definitely they will be keen to hear from you. So I think if if it's something to do with learning disability and a social aspect, then do get in touch with them.
Thank you. And just we are a bit over time, but I think there's one more question. Do the women in the special interest group with women include other genders like non-binary?
Not that I know of, but I don't think that's not that I know of, but I don't think that should be an issue. So definitely worth getting in touch with them as well. Yeah.
I'm sure they're not exclusive or anything, so
No.
it'd be worth getting in touch. Okay, thank you very much, Amika. Our second speaker is Craig Anderson from the University of Glasgow, who's going to be talking about his experiences volunteering with AMS. Take it away, Craig.
Hi. Hi everyone. So I am Craig Anderson. I'm a lecturer in statistics at the University of Glasgow, and I'm going to talk about my experience volunteering with AMS in January of this year. If I can share my slides, that work. Perfect. So some of you may know what AMS is and some of you may not, but the purpose of AMS is to enable Africa's brightest students to flourish as independent thinkers, problem solvers and innovators, capable of propelling Africa's future scientific, industrial, educational and economic self-sufficiency. So that's what they describe themselves as. And these are some pictures that were taken from my time there, where we see students enjoying themselves in the classroom, and then it's a very collaborative kind of framework that they have in place, and it's a really great place to be. So what is it in general? So it's a network of postgraduate training and research centres across Africa, and essentially some of the most gifted students from across Africa receive scholarships, which includes accommodation and meals, to go to one of the centres to study for a master's degree. And the courses at AMS are all delivered, or mostly anyway, delivered by volunteer guest lecturers in 3-week blocks. And each lecturer will cover a topic of their choosing, meaning that the programme changes each year. So some parts of the programme are fixed, we'll get onto this later, but a large part of the programme is actually changes each year depending on which lecturer volunteers to go and attend, essentially. And AMS started in South Africa in 2003, but there are now 6 centres across the continent. So there's a centre in Senegal, in Ghana, in Cameroon, in Rwanda, and in Tanzania. I visited the centre, sorry, that's not it. I visited the centre in Ghana in January of this year. The centre in Ghana used to be on Cape Coast, which is around 4 or 5 hours west of Accra, but is now in Accra, the capital of Ghana. It's kind of in a suburb on the outskirts of the city. And during my time there, I spoke to people who've been to some of the other centres. One of my colleagues was in Cameroon the previous year. I spoke to someone who's been in Senegal, and I've spoke to someone who's been in the one in South Africa. And there seems to be at least a push towards some degree of uniformity in terms of how everything works and how everything is presented, but still allowing each centre to have its own kind of individual kind of national quirks and everything that goes along with that. So I think you get a sense of which country you're in, but also you get a sense that you're part of something much larger. So for more information about AMS, they've got a nice website which gives you kind of lots of information about what they do. This is the one for the Ghanaian centre. What they don't have under the banner of AMS is a kind of single website for the whole thing. But AMS has been kind of somewhat incorporated into something known as the Next Einstein program, which is essentially an attempt to produce, for Africa to produce the next Einstein, the next kind of star in kind of mathematical sciences or science more generally. So each country's AMS project has its own website, and you can find out a lot more information about those. As I said, it was Ghana, which I visited earlier this year. So that's what I will talk about my experiences in, but as far as I can tell, it's pretty similar across the board. So how are the degrees structured for the students? And that will explain how you can possibly get involved in doing this. So like most master's degrees that would be done anywhere in the world, they kind of run across roughly 3 semesters. Semester 1 runs from August to October, and is a series of skills courses, and that involves a roughly fixed syllabus with introductory and foundational material. So what you teach in the skills courses is quite fixed. You're told, you're going to be teaching calculus, or you're going to be teaching statistical inference or something along those lines. And those are quite fixed. And whoever goes to teach those courses has to teach a course in that topic. Subsequently, though, in semester 2, from December to March, they have a series of what are known as review courses. And those are courses that are taught by staff in their topics of interest, which vary year to year depending on the proposals. So I went in January to Ghana, and the course that I taught was called Data Visualization in Advanced Statistical Methods or something like that. And it essentially started out with looking at, because they have some foundational statistical knowledge, starting out looking at, well, here is how you can visualize what you've done so far. Here's it was a lot focused on kind of displaying results, and then subsequently we went on to teach things like generalized linear models, mixed models, logistic regression, and a series of things which the students wouldn't have seen before in any of their other courses. So the students this year would have received that, but of course next year perhaps someone different will teach in the slot that I'm in which case it would be a slightly different but still advanced topic. So that kind of means that there's a great degree of flexibility in terms of the staff members who want to go and teach during semester 2 can teach whatever within reason, can teach whatever they like. So if you have something that you're particularly interested in, have particular expertise in, you can propose to go and teach that topic, and it's up to the programme director to decide which topics they want to hear, and therefore which staff members they would like to come and join them in that given year. Finally, semester 3 from the students runs roughly from April to June, and that consists of a set of research projects, and the students carry out dissertations on research projects proposed by supervisors. So as well as attending in January, I did also supervise 3 students for research projects in semester 3 this year. Typically, you would actually have the opportunity to return to the centre if you supervise. I think they said if you're kind of supervising, one student, it would generally be done remotely, and if you wanted to attend, then that would essentially be at your own institution's expense. But because I was supervising 3 students, they had initially said I would be welcome to return to Accra again to spend a week or 2 with the students, and that would be funded by AMS. As we all know, that didn't happen, just like every other plan that anybody had between about March and now. But I did still supervise the students remotely, and it was actually a very rewarding process. And the interesting thing for me is that these semester 1 and 2 courses have to be taught in the centre, but the semester 3 courses are able to be taught remotely. So there is actually that flexibility in terms of what you do. And also the semester 3 ones are particularly being advertised as being something that PhD students and postdocs, advanced PhD students and postdocs could also do. So while I think the semester 1 and 2 courses are typically aimed at kind of academic researchers, lecturers and so on who have PhDs, the semester 3 courses, they are very open to having advanced PhD students or postdocs going out to teach these courses. But there's a lot of information on their website about what they can do. And here's some more information on that. Every year they invite proposals for lecturers to teach at any of their 6 centres, and you can apply to teach a semester 1 topic or to propose your own for semester 2. You can choose, if you want, I think, which centres you want to go and work at. What I gather is that the South African one is particularly popular. So generally, I think you're going to have more chance of being selected if you choose to apply to some of the other ones. Of course, some people may prefer simply to go to South Africa, in which case, obviously, only apply there. I was quite happy to go to Ghana. The way that I actually got into it was that my colleague had taught in Cameroon last year, 2019. He was unable to teach this year, but had been kind of asked to return to Cameroon. He had originally thought, well, I don't want to go to Cameroon again, I'd like to go somewhere else. He'd applied to go to Ghana and then had been unable to do so, and therefore he got in touch with me and asked if I would like to do it, and it was something that interested me. So me and one of my other colleagues went over and taught this course between us, and it was very, very useful. So I actually didn't have to go through all of this application process because he'd already done it on my behalf, but he led me to believe it's not as strenuous as it maybe sounds. the courses in each of the semesters 1 and 2 are taught intensively across 3 weeks. And when we say intensively, it is quite intensive because you're only there for 3 weeks, but you're essentially trying to deliver an entire lecture course. So in that 3-week period, each week you had about 10 hours of contact with the students in terms of teaching, and also you had a kind of office space where the students were kind of encouraged to come and ask you questions and come and speak to you as they would kind of when you were teaching in a kind of over a longer period. And that sometimes led to some kind of interesting conversations. I had a conversation with a student one day where they said, I came to try and see you at your office, but you weren't there. And I was slightly confused because I'd been sitting in the office all afternoon, and he had said, I came to see you at 10:30 at night. And he was somewhat surprised that I wasn't in my office. By that time, I was back across in my bedroom, trying to remain slightly cool and watching some videos on YouTube. I was not thinking that I would be expected to speak to the students at 10:30 at night, but they that was I think that was kind of reflective of the experience, that the students are just very keen to learn, and therefore they will be, I think, politely demanding of your time, in the sense that they never kind of demand it in you must come and speak to me, but they are always very keen to discuss things with you, and that's something that I enjoy, because teaching here in Glasgow, and it can be quite difficult to get some of the students to engage with you, and that certainly wasn't a problem there. I found the students to be fantastic to work with. So moving on, we'll talk about the teaching. As I said, 10 hours a week. It was a 2-hour lecture every day. And as I said, they provided with office space as well. So this was the building here. And then you can actually see me standing up at the front teaching the course to the students. The accommodation was directly across the road from me, and that was all provided for me during my time there. So it was kind of in a nice compound. It was a lovely place. It had a pool and it had a bar. So on the Saturday and Sunday when I wasn't teaching, I could go and sit by the pool. I didn't go in swimming at the time, but it was too relaxing. I just wanted to sit by the pool with a book and a drink, and it was a very nice place to be. Meals were all provided on site, 3 meals a day. It was certainly food that I hadn't seen before. I actually don't know what the one on the left is here. I still don't know what it is. I ate it and it was very tasty, but it was served with plantain and vegetables. There was a lot of rice. There was a lot of vegetables like that. As a vegetarian, there was a lot of meat that I couldn't eat, but I was generally well catered for. They were very, there was a lot of food on offer, and I certainly never went hungry. It was just an experience eating new things. On the right appears to be some sort of, I think it's a rice ball in a sort of soup, which was a kind of starter for your meal. And again, all the food was quite nice, but there was the bar and restaurant at the accommodation. So on the Saturday, I felt like something different. You could still get a pizza or things along those lines. Everyone was very welcoming and friendly throughout my time there. The students were fantastic, and all the staff couldn't kind of do enough to help you. You'll see in this picture, I'm there in the centre wearing a shirt which I was very kindly given, which I'm now wearing today, and that was kind of a traditional costume, I think for Ghana, or certainly for the area of Accra that I was in. So it was all very friendly. They organised trips every weekend, so I had the opportunity to go and see a football match in Accra. It was the Hearts of Oak, were the local team. And they did actually lose the game, but as a big football fan, I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was something I think I never thought I would be able to experience, because the stadium was absolutely packed full, and it was an incredible experience to have. And they also gave us a tour of Accra, on one of the other weekends. And we went to visit Osu Castle, which was actually something that when I was there kind of made me appreciate why I was there and why I was doing these things. Because it was actually part of the slave trade, and it was where it was actually, I think it was run by the Danish at the time, but it was where slaves were kept until they were transported. And again, it kind of made you think about the impact that we in the kind of West have had on Africa, and how much we've taken from Africa kind of throughout our history. So for me, it kind of brought home the fact that if I have the opportunity to give something back by volunteering at AMS as I did, then it's something that I should be doing. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. Here I am in Accra. It was a fantastic city to visit as well. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. and I could not have been made more welcome by the people at AIM. So it was something that I would be very keen to do again in the future, and I would generally encouraged all of my colleagues to think about doing it. If you can spare the 3 weeks, I think it's a fantastic experience. Yeah, the students in particular just so much more engaging than the ones in Glasgow. And it does also, as a bonus, generally in normal circumstances, give you an opportunity to travel. Hopefully at some point in the future, people will be able to travel again, and you'll be able to do that. So thanks for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about it.
Thank you so much for that talk, Craig. That sounds like a really amazing experience. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions, submit them to the chat box, and I'll be happy to ask them. But Craig, could you tell us a bit about how much teaching experience that we'd expected to have?
It didn't necessarily seem like you were expected to have a huge amount of teaching experience. I mean, I've been in my job for 3 years, so I've only really been teaching for 2 years by the time that I went. The time I went there, and I think one of the other people who was teaching a course was a postdoc, I think. So again, she hadn't taught very much before. She was an expert in what she was teaching. I think she was a physicist, so it was a kind of mathematical physics course that she was teaching. But she had a great deal of experience in the topic that you're teaching. So I think the expertise is what is mainly required. But I think it's not like you're expected to have years and years of experience. That's certainly not the case.
And do you know, is AIMS completely remote at the moment?
As far as I know, yes. I mean, again, each individual country will be different, I guess. But I've been speaking to students in Ghana up until the last couple of weeks, and just for various things, and they're not being taught in person. They are all actually still on the accommodation, because at some point they were basically all the borders to Ghana were closed, so the students who were in Ghana from other countries in Africa weren't allowed to travel home. So they had been stuck in the accommodation, were being continued, still being looked after, fed and so on, and seemed reasonably happy about that. But they weren't doing any teaching. They were just in the accommodation. All the teaching became remote as of the time I was doing the projects. And when they asked me about next year, because they kind of asked if I was interested in doing it for next year, they kind of said they didn't know if it would be in person or remote.
Okay. Do you know of any similar opportunities in Asia?
It's not something that I know about. It would surprise me if there wasn't anything along those lines, but I don't think there's anything that's kind of organised. I guess and this is political rather than my expertise, but my feeling is that the African countries generally tend to be willing to collaborate a lot more on things like this than countries in Asia. Perhaps Southeast Asia might be an area where the countries might be willing to kind of get together for something like this, but I don't know of any, would be the correct answer to that question, without throwing in something I know nothing about.
Thanks. There are a few more questions in the chat box, but we're out of time, so perhaps you can handle those. And we'll move on to our third speaker. So our third speaker is Cameron Tanner from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and she'll be talking to us about her experiences volunteering with Statisticians for Society. Thanks, Cameron.
Great, thank you. And I think my slides will be magically shared momentarily. My name is Cameron Tanner, and I'm going to talk about my experience volunteering through the Statisticians for Society program, which is run by the RSS. And you may have seen some calls for volunteers come through in emails. They'll list several different groups and a brief little summary of what that group needs. That is the Statisticians for Society program that I'm going to talk about. So next slide, please. I've just finished my third year as a PhD student in medical statistics at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And when I began my training as a statistician, really a big part of what my motivation was about giving something back. Because I believe that everyone at this conference has a very unique and valuable skill, that being statistics. I mean, it may be hard for us to believe, but many people find statistics a bit intimidating, dare I say, boring, crazy people. But things that are, straightforward and really cool and interesting to us aren't straightforward or really cool to a lot of people. So we have a skill as statisticians that's actually quite special, and it's valuable to other people and organizations. So I wanted to share that skill, especially with small charitable organizations. These are organizations that really just need some statistical expertise for a particular project. It's not core to their business at all. And the Statisticians for Society program facilitates matching up people like us that have a skill that we want to share with a charitable organization who needs a little help. So on the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about really benefits to you of volunteering. I mean, the first one, when you help somebody or a group of people or a company, it feels good. And I don't mean that to sound corny, but it's not. But when you're happy and you're personally satisfied in your work, it makes all of your work better. And it translates really into your non-work life as well. I think I wouldn't underestimate the impact of this kind of feel-good aspect of volunteering. Volunteering also gives you a way to really directly participate in your community, because these organizations tend to serve very specialized segments of the community, and you get to participate in a very, very tangible way. You're dealing not with numbers, but with actual people with names. It's a very direct way to participate. And of course, it's also a great learning opportunity. I mean, first you need to learn about the organization itself, their mission, their vision, because what you're really doing is helping them to deliver on that. You need to learn their terminology, the context of the area that they're operating in. You can't just go straight to the data, right? So you're learning about this company, and you're probably learning about a niche that's totally new to you. Of course, there's always things to learn about statistics. In my particular project, I got to brush up on my areas of bias in surveys and ways to increase response rates from surveys, which these are very practical things that I'm sure are going to serve me well in the future. And they were very different from the survival modeling I've been doing for the past 3 years. So it was actually a fun learning opportunity. There's also a real benefit to doing your volunteer work through the Statisticians for Society program, and that is having the RSS support you. One of the first things that Amika told me when I began was, if you ever need any help, send a note. If you just want to bounce ideas off somebody, if you're stuck on something, let us know and we'll find somebody who can help you. We also had about 2/3 of the way through my project, we had a meeting with, there's a review panel process. So they look over the work you've done. I don't know if any of you were in yesterday's session about the statistical consultancies. If so, you would have seen Marie Oldfield speak. And she was actually my review panel member. So it was amazing to have somebody with her experience, providing suggestions, looking over the project. It also gave me this comfort, just having somebody else look at it, that I wasn't missing something. So there's a real supportive aspect to this Statisticians for Society program that's really nice. The only thing I might, say is, definitely think about whether you've actually got the time to do it. You're not going to help you or the organization if you take on a project that you just don't have time for. Each project will come with an estimated time commitment. I would say maybe do your own estimate. we all work at different speeds. I'm very slow at writing up the final report, so whatever the estimate for that is, I need to double it. So things like that, kind of think about it and just make sure that you are going to be able to take it on. And if so, hopefully there's a good experience for you ahead. So on the next slide, please. The organization that I was paired with is called Akuro Care Services, and they offer services to children and young adults with learning disabilities in West Essex. Their vision, I'm just going to read it, is to eliminate the social isolation of people with disabilities within their local communities by enhancing their confidence to cross bridges into a wider world. It's a great vision. And the way they execute this is by offering regular clubs for young people, for young adults. There's also school holiday programs, and they're teaching life skills. They're providing a place to make friendships. They're helping to build confidence. Another big part of their mission is to provide the family with some respite. These are very busy families. So why does a place like that need a statistician? So the primary reason, and it's my guess that this comes up a lot with these small charities, is to help secure funding. So when charities make grant applications or even appeals for funding into their communities, they have to make the case about why they're the organization that should be funded. And they do that by providing evidence of the impact on the community that they serve. And that's really where the statistician comes in, is to help them, gather this evidence. So my contact at Akuro, Natalie, is the Grants and Trusts fundraiser. So she knew all about writing successful grant applications and what kind of evidence that she was going to need to be able to put into these applications to secure the funding. So next slide, please. So in early 2020, Akuro had sent out a survey to all of their stakeholders. So these are service users, that's their term for people who actually participate in the clubs, the parents and carers of those service users, as well as the staff and volunteers. So it was one survey in the sense of the sort of the delivery and the foundation, but each of these different respondent categories was being asked a totally different set of questions. And they built this survey using Google Forms. And one thing you get back from Google Forms is just a summary by respondent type of each question. And so Akuro had already received this, and they'd used it to update their materials. But Natalie at Akuro, she was suspicious that there were probably some stronger stories in there that weren't coming out from this kind of simple look at the survey data. And so that was really the impetus for her contacting Statisticians for Society and asking for a volunteer for help. They were also hoping to get some constructive feedback on the survey itself. So next slide, thanks. So I mentioned that the primary goal of my project was to gather evidence from this survey to help indicate the impact on the community. So there were a lot of different ways to approach this. None of them involved, massively complicated statistical techniques. It was really more about being creative and kind of focused on their goal. So we did a thematic analysis of all the free text responses in the survey. This was also a great way for me to learn more about what the users valued about Akuro. And so what we did was just basically gather these responses by themes. So for example, one of the themes that came up a lot was that the parents felt that their children were often judged when they're in situations, maybe at their regular school or just in the park. They constantly felt this judgment from other people. And at Akuro, it was a break from that. It was a place that their child could go and not be judged and just make friends and be themselves and be natural. And that's really, a powerful sentiment. And so we were able to find some quotes around that and around other of these kinds of themes. So when a coral's writing their grant applications, they can really target in on what they're doing for the community. We also did a subgroup analysis, which sounds fancier than it was. We basically looked at the responses by the type of club that they were attending. And again, this is all about helping a Kuro target their grant applications, because sometimes they write applications just for a young adult community. And so I was able to give Natalie data just for that community that she could use. We even looked at some kind of creative graphical techniques. They received back from their Google Forms a bunch of pie charts, which we know have, as statisticians, we know have a flaw in terms of people being able to judge the differences. So we looked at some different things just to break up these appeals for funding a little bit that were very text heavy, also to economize on space and to emphasize certain aspects. There's a lot of cases where a Kuro would say, do you agree that your child has fun, let's say. And the fact that nobody disagreed, that was important to emphasize. And sometimes it's easier to do that graphically. Next slide, please. They were also hoping for information or feedback, rather, on the survey itself and what could they do better there. So the first thing that really jumped out involved response rate. They had about a 30% on average response rate. And so we were a little bit worried about non-response bias, which you get when the people who do answer the survey are different in some way than the people who don't answer the survey. Now, just because you have a low response rate doesn't necessarily mean you have that bias, but you clearly want to get that response rate up. So we looked at things like the delivery of the survey and maybe giving the parents a paper copy when they drop their children off at the club, along with an envelope and a stamp, so it can continue to be anonymous. Other obvious things like just making the survey shorter. I ended up recommending that they cut it in half, which I know seemed kind of drastic to them. We also looked at sort of the quality of the data they were getting. And here, one of the key things is respondent fatigue. And this tends to come up a lot in longer surveys. It would surprise me if it's never happened to you. You get one of these surveys and you're answering it and you're on the 5th page and you're like, oh, come on, you just start clicking to get the thing over, And so we want to avoid that. And again, just simply making the survey shorter helps with that. And I learned about sort of a whole new kind of bias I wasn't aware of. I put a sample on this slide of what's called a matrix question. So that's when you ask a statement, a series of statements, and then the responses are all the same. So you're trying to make it easier for the person answering the survey by formatting it like this. But it turns out there's a type of bias called straight lining. And so what happens is, again, as the person gets tired, whatever vertical column they're in, they just run right down the column and click all of them. So we tried to eliminate that kind of thing as well in the survey. And just thinking about which respondent categories they even needed to survey. It's a small organization, so the idea of surveying staff, maybe that's not needed. It wasn't really anonymous. As soon as the staff would say where they worked, you pretty much knew who they were, and maybe you could get better information just by interviewing them. So all these kinds of ideas, some of which had absolutely nothing to do with numbers or traditional data analysis, but it's this sort of upfront planning so that you get good data so that you can do that analysis, is certainly also part of, I think probably part of a lot of these projects. So on the final slide, I just want to say that the final deliverable in this case, I think oftentimes it's a an in-person presentation, but given the times, that didn't work. So we had a written final report. So they have something to reference when they're doing their grant applications and planning next year's survey. But really, there's nothing that's a big surprise in the final report when you give it to them. Hopefully, you've been working really closely with your contact at the organization all along, bouncing ideas off of them, making sure that the context you're thinking about things in matches up, with what they're trying to do. So it was a very positive experience for me, and I'm really hoping to be able to do another a volunteer opportunity through this program. And I'm also certainly happy to speak with anyone, after the conference. If you're considering volunteering, you just want to know what it was like. So thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Cameron. That was a great talk. It's really good to hear about the great work you've been doing. Can you tell us how many hours a week did you typically spend on your volunteer project?
Yeah, so the original estimate was 30 hours. And then what I did was I kind of dedicated Thursdays to it. And I probably spent about 6 hours on maybe a few more than 5 Thursdays. I think I went over the 30 hours a bit. But again, this is this known thing I have where I'm slow about writing the reports.
I guess it's good to be aware of that about yourself. I would be exactly the same. Was there an application process that you had to go through to get the project?
Oh yes, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, when the Statisticians for Society puts out a call, they ask for your CV and just a little cover letter about why you want to do this project, and what skills you think you can bring to the table. And then I assume they talk about it with the organization itself, and then someone is selected. So there is a little, nothing too big though.
Okay, and what's the best way to keep in touch hearing about the opportunities?
Well, let's see. I actually see them in the email I get from the RSS periodically. I don't know, Amika, is that what you would say?
You would have to register to be on the mailing list. So we have a mailing list for the program. And yeah, if you get in touch with us, there's a email address on the web page, and if you get in touch with us, you'll be put on the mailing list. Yeah.
On that note, if you're interested in any of the volunteering opportunities that we've talked about, there will be more information on the Royal Statistical Society conference. There is one more question. So in the last minute, how does this scheme, Cameron, relate to the STEM network?
I have no idea.
So the STEM is a different initiative, I think, that the Royal Statistical Society are involved with. So that's if you want to become a STEM ambassador. Again, more information is that on the website if you do want to find out about that, on the Royal Statistical Society website, that is. So I think we'll finish up. Thank you very much to all of our speakers, and thank you to the audience members.